I want to move on to a story you wrote in the Toronto Star titled "Lost Gates Hurt the Maple Leafs the Most, and Another Flat Cap Season Would Compound the Damage." In the subhead here, there is growing concern across the National Hockey League that lost revenue because of the pandemic will result in the salary cap remaining at $81.5 million for a fourth straight season. And I know obviously you have it from the lens of the Toronto Maple Leafs, considering the salaries allotted to them. But
I'm writing in the Toronto Star.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, of course you kind of have to. But definitely they'd be one of the teams who would not like the idea of playing in another flat cap. But yeah, I mean, the pandemic wreaking revenues as it is, of course we're in this situation.
Well, here's where we're at, right? I think there's been 29 games rescheduled that were meant to be played in Canadian buildings from December 27th and through January. And so, okay, that doesn't sound like a lot, but if we budget $2 million a gate, because, the Leafs are at the high end, about $3.5 million is believed to be their nightly gate. I mean, you're starting to see that money slip away from overall league revenues, which is what the cap is based on. And I think that the problem we have is we don't know what each jurisdiction across the country is going to do. Like, are the Leafs going to have full fans the rest of the season, any game? I don't know. I don't know what the province is thinking, but I think it's reasonable based on how the restrictions went in the past that at some point maybe they get to 25% or 50%, but they're not back to 19,000 fans. It might be months. It might not even be this year. Like, I don't even want to put that in the universe because I don't want to even imagine a world where there's playoff games again without full fans in any of the Canadian buildings. Like, what a travesty that felt like last year. And I get that it's a public health crisis, but yeah. So, that article is reporting based on people I talked to that teams are worried now. The cap isn't going up. I did reach out to Bill Daly this week, and he said basically they don't have the answer. Like, they haven't been able to renew. They projected at the Board of Governors meeting there would be a slight raise in the cap for next year, $82.5 million, and they haven't renewed their financials, but mostly because there's too many unknowns, right? He wasn't dodging the question. It's just they don't know. And, it does hurt a team like the Leafs. And just for fun, let's go through the Leafs situation, right?
Yes.
They sign William Nylander. They actually negotiated hard with him, and I think they have a great deal with him. If you look, he's having a career season. If you look at other players who produce like him, like, that's a good value contract. I think you had to hand the whole keys to Austin Matthews because there's no center in hockey that's almost ever scored like him in history. And if you look, he scored at a 60-goal pace since he signed that contract. So, yeah, you'd like a longer deal if you're the Leafs in hindsight, whatever. But he was going to name. He's one of the 5 players in the league that's naming his contract. Essentially, they didn't go hard at Marner, but like the whole bet with all those players, yeah, they committed $40 million, including John Tavares, to their forwards. But the whole bet was over time it would be easier to digest because the cap goes up every year. That's what happened for forever, and it's just bad timing for them. They didn't foresee a 1 in 100 years pandemic. Essentially,
no one did.
No. And if you go back to March 2020, Julian, a week before the season shut down, the league had a GM's meeting where they said next year's cap is going to be between 84 million and 88.2. And that was for 2 seasons ago. Like, in that alternate universe, we're at a $93 million cap now, $95 million cap, whatever it would be.
Absolutely. Yeah. I thought about that.
Of course, we only have to go to cap friendly. Half the league is above the cap. So it's not only the Leafs that have been hurt by this, but like their bet with those players was that, okay, we overpay them maybe a little bit to keep them happy. We have some of the most talent in the league. And then over time, it gets easier. But the truth is, over time, it's going to get harder for them because they can't sign anyone else long term, really. Like, they've signed Morgan Riley this year for a contract that starts next season. Like, what are they doing with Jack Campbell? Jack Campbell might be the Vezina Trophy winner right now. He's certainly in the conference. Like, he's in the top 3, I think, on anyone's list. And he's an unrestricted free agent. Like, I'm not sure they can keep him, but it's going to require shipping money out in some other way. They have other players. And then, of course, they're just going to lose some guys around the margins. So a third liner, say like Ilya Mikheyev, who's got 4 goals in the 6 games he's played this year. Like, he's probably just gone. It's not even a comment on his ability. I just don't think there's a fit for what he wants to make and what they can pay him. And so their whole, like the whole way this was structured gets turned upside down by the pandemic. And then they're also one of the teams losing the actual money, right? They've already played 2 games without fans. I don't know. They're going to play 20 more without fans or with limited fans. I mean, anyway.
Let me give you a second here. So like, I just think with the Leafs, like you bring up a really good point. The fact that they've pretty much like tied up so many of these salaries and these forwards, and like I think of Mitch Marner. Like people were bringing that up last year. What do you do with that guy? What do you do with the salary that he's making? Like he shouldn't be making it. I don't know if should he be making anywhere near Austin Matthews money? Like what do you do with that? Like if you're going to be in a situation where the Leafs are realizing, okay, we're in a cap world, a flat cap world, someone's going to have to move. Is he someone you think about moving?
I don't think they'll do that. This is actually the beauty of what they've done. I'm highlighting all these problems that exist, challenges, and every front office faces challenges. I think that they've been smart not to trade these guys. Like as we're recording this, they're 3rd in the league in points percentage.
Right.
And this is such a strange season. I almost feel like we don't even talk about what teams are good right now. Like we always like not just you and I, Julian, I mean, in general, but like the Leafs legitimately have a chance to win the Stanley Cup this year based on what we've seen so far of the games. And Mitch Marner is actually not having his best season. He's been injured and he's been on the COVID list this week, so he hasn't played the last couple of games. But the beauty of how they built their team is they have so much depth. I mean, Tavares has had a bounce back year. Matthews is still a monster. Nylander's having the best season of his career. They've signed some players like Michael Bunting, Andre Kasha, David Kampf, like guys that have really fit in nicely to the overall mix. I think that they understood that their advantage was having sort of more weapons than most teams. I mean, there's a few other teams out there we might say that their forward group lines up with the Leafs. Edmonton, maybe Colorado, depending on how you view their top players. But there's not that many teams. Like you get to the 4th or 5th team and you're like, I would take the Leafs forward group straight up over that team. You might like their defense. You might like their goaltending. I'm not saying that, but they're legitimately they're a problem for teams. And so I think they've been smart to stick with their guys. I think they'll stick as long as Kyle Dubas is in charge. I don't see that changing. The X factor, of course, is if they lose in the first round again, if there's a change in management, I mean, the next person is going to come in and probably make a big change.
Yeah.
But I don't see, as long as Kyle Dubas is making that decision, I don't think he's trading any of Nylander, Tavares, Marner, and no GM on the planet would willingly trade Austin Matthews at this stage of his career. He's got a case. He's another guy. Like no one's talking. Like he scored 17 goals in 15 games. I think it's just like normal.
He's having a great year.
No, but like I'm just saying, like it's just like, oh yeah, he's gonna score basically like 0.72 goals a game, and that's just normal. And he's also become a much better rounded defensive player last season and this. Anyway, they're going to be a problem for other teams. They have their own problems. Some part of my job is to point that out in the newspaper, but the truth is they've done a really good job, but it does suck for them. Like even $1 million cap raise, like it might not sound like a lot, but it would make a difference in what they're trying to do next year. Just trying to have the best players around their core guys, trying to, retain some talent. And, they're one of the teams. Like I think they're losing the actual money by not having fans in the building. And then they're also going to have some sort of competitive cost, I guess, if the cap doesn't go up.